Hello and welcome to another streamer news. I don't actually hear myself in my headphones. That's a little confusing. I believe it's working. If you can't see the video, refresh. You wouldn't know that because you aren't hearing me, but also make sure your quality settings are set correctly. I am streaming in 4K this time. I finally fixed the latency issues. So if YouTube's auto defaulting you to 480p or 360p, which is what they're doing for most people now, up the quality if you're interested in a 4K stream. Otherwise, it'll be there on the VOD. Hello, welcome back to Streamer News for the week of April 10th, 2020. I can't believe it's already Friday again. Time just functions so differently when you don't have a normal, like, routine of leaving the house anymore. It is super strange, super bizarre. Don't really have a whole lot of callouts this week to start the stream off. I saw my XSplit masterclass going if you're interested. I have a video coming next week on some stream tips that kind of modify my existing stream tips, specifically for people who are streaming and aren't gamers. And so much of my stuff is heavily catered towards gamers and game streamers and things like that. That's in, a video that might interest you since there's so many people. And yes, I did see Maisie Williams tweeting about wanting to stream to Twitch. I responded. She'll probably not respond. Most of the celebrities don't. They're just kind of put a tweet out there, and then I'm guessing somebody they know reaches out, behind the scenes and helps them out. But I did shoot my shot just in case she needs some help. And then I have the video coming soon. I have a new course in the works that I am super stoked to share with you. I do not have a link to give you right now, but I will have an email sign up so you can get notified as soon as it is ready. So be on the lookout for that, as that will be coming very soon. Yes, Hades Stamps noticed I am running the Shure SM7B today. I was switching to the RE320 because I was having I suck at EQing, I really do, and so I was getting really frustrated with the EQ I was getting out of my RE20, and I knew that I always loved the sound out of the RE320, but it is somehow less shielded than the RE20 and apparently the SM7B, in that whenever I move the microphone over to this side of my desk for game streaming, the closer the microphone got to my PC, the more EMI it was picking up, literally coming out of my PC and giving this weird staticky noise during my Twitch streams. Switching to the SM7B, it does not have that issue, and it's just been a new challenge to learn to EQ and stuff. I think this sounds quite a bit more natural than the RE mics. I still prefer the Electro Voice mics. They are still my all-time favorite microphones. But for people who don't prefer the punchy radio sound, it's holding up pretty well. I'm a big fan. All right, so we're gonna get jumping into the topics here. I need to make sure everything is working correctly. My Stream Deck is still not inputting my slide hotkeys here, but I believe we're good to go. We have a lot of topics to talk about today, and I'm pretty stoked for it. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right in, assuming this works. Question mark. Hey, no stinger transition, but it works. All right, this is the thing of now my there we go. All right, cool. This is the thing of being the guy who teaches streaming, is I'm constantly screwing up my OBS settings to show them off for video, so things don't always work. Getting into the topics. Twitch has just introduced new banning and new blocking tools. This was about a week ago, that are really powerful and what the community has been asking for quite a bit. Specifically, when you block users, they are now removed from your followers list and your active chatters list, so that you literally never have to see them ever again. And then following that, and they have a couple support links available as well to actually manage your blocked users and things like that. Following that, Devin Nash was actually doing some testing and discovered that if you ban someone from your server, or from your live stream, they can no longer even see chat. But not only that, it gives them an IP-based shadow ban, so that if they go and they make new accounts and start trying to chat from there, to them it still looks like they're still chatting, but no one ends up seeing the chat. This is really powerful, really cool, but that also means that you need to maybe be a little bit more helpful a little bit more careful when you're banning people, because you may accidentally ban someone and then they are completely gone, and they may not be able to tell you that you accidentally did that because of what happened there. So it is worth noting that. Along with that, we're basically front loading this with Twitch news today. Along with that, Twitch has introduced new policies regarding nudity and attire. The the community has been very harsh and serious with their feedback regarding Twitch's rules and the policies regarding what you can and cannot wear, show on stream, things like that. And that was actually something Mixer was doing really well when they launched, was they were basically saying exactly what you could and couldn't do. And while it may have been more strict than people were expecting, it had set rules and you knew how to follow them. Whereas Twitch's rules were maybe a little bit more vague, a little bit more confusing, and thus, as a result, which always happens, the enforcement of those rules was kind of inconsistent because, you know, if the rules weren't very clear, it's the same thing with YouTube, with a lot of YouTube issues. If the rules aren't super specific, then enforcement of them kind of gets inconsistent based on who you're enforcing rules upon. So the policy has been completely revamped, and they're going from a garment-specific policy, which was kind of a silly way to go, to a standard level of coverage that they expect all streamers, regardless of sex or gender, to maintain, with specific situational exceptions. So specifically, streamers cannot be fully or partially nude, and they cannot expose their butt or genitals. There's no visible outline of genitals allowed, and women or people who present as women need to cover nipples with no exposed underbust. Cleavage otherwise is unrestricted, which all of the 12-year-olds who follow those people will probably love. Hips to the bottom of your pelvis and butt must be covered. Coverage must be opaque, no see-through stuff. And this does apply, this is a very important note, this does apply to digital avatars where your physical motions are controlling those avatars. So you can't get around these rules by basically becoming a Vocaloid and controlling an anime girl and then suddenly breaking the rules because it's not a real person. Those rules still apply. Now, there are exceptions to these rules, which apply in cases of your IRL streaming from swimming or beaches, concerts or festivals, where you can't really control what everyone else is doing around you and people show up not entirely dressed to those things. And then there are exceptions for body art streams as well, which was a big concern. So that is, you know, there are exceptions for it, but there will still be enforcement of the rules within those contexts. So you can't just break all the rules because you're doing body art, but, you know, that is still something that they will be more flexible and more contextual with how it's enforced based on the subject of the stream. Same thing with embedded media, especially supported by Twitch. If you have, basically, if you're playing back like an ad or a movie, you know, watch parties, which we're going to talk about in a moment, or something like that, that is available. And then breastfeeding is also protected as well, which should be assumed. So lots of changes there. I think a lot of streamers will be very happy with this because it is super specific. So there's no, oh, why does this streamer get in trouble for it, but this streamer doesn't? You know, that sort of thing, which really causes a lot of problems. This is very specific. It's very detailed. Our moderators are posting it in chat here. And if you are concerned about how your stream may or may not fall in line with those, these are available to you. And this, of course, applies to just chatting or gaming streams or any kind of stream. Speaking of, I just mentioned watch parties. Twitch, due to the current human malware situation, Twitch is finally rolling out the beta for watch parties. So if you are a Prime subscriber, you will start getting the feature rolled out to you to start to be able to use the new watch parties functionality, which basically allows you to watch any Amazon Prime streamed service. I don't know why the Twitch blog is not loading here. There we go. You will be able to stream any Amazon Prime service. So for example, they have Jack Ryan here with viewers in this little, you know, privatized group, as long as, at least the last that we heard, as long as everyone who was watching also had Amazon Prime, which is, you know, perhaps a frustrating limitation of the service for some, but it is a really cool service regardless. And I'm pretty stoked. Like, people have always been using third party and weird workarounds to do this. So having something where you can do this, you know, within within the community that you've already built on Twitch is always a good thing. Absolutely. I just wanted to note here real quick, let you guys soak in on that topic. Someone mentioned that the RE20 would not like being close to CRTs. I have a big ass CRT right here off screen on my desk, and every time it's on, that causes a lot of problems for my microphone. So I'm hoping the SM7B is better about that too. I just wanted to note that. I know that doesn't really matter to most people. Just wanted to give it a little note here. Is that for EU or just in A? It is just for the United States for now. It says all viewers in the United States, and we'll make it globally in the coming months. There's obviously a lot of licensing and permission restrictions that go in there, and obviously the content available in different regions is different as well. So there's a lot to work out there. So it is definitely launching US first, but hopefully they don't take too long to roll it out elsewhere, but we'll see. All right, we've got one really important topic that I want to talk about here today that a lot of you guys may probably just decide that I'm being silly for. But there were a lot of articles talking about just how many viewers Valorant had on Twitch and how important that was and how significant it was that they had so many viewers, that they just had 1.6 million viewers, which nearly beat out the top concurrent viewers for one specific game, along with Twitch itself also having over 4 million concurrent viewers on one of the Valorant launch days that actually ended up smashing the all-time record for Twitch. We actually just reported on Twitch is breaking some records last streamer news, so a couple weeks ago, for a couple different days. Well, this has broken their all-time record altogether, just completely smashing it with 4 million concurrent viewers at one point, which is insane. But it's worth keeping in mind here that views specifically for a game like Valorant, it's facetious to say that the game has that many viewers in a genuine capacity. It's one of those things where, yes, it's technically true, and the effects of what is happening that I'm going to talk about here lead to more real people watching, but these aren't just organic viewers showing up to a Valorant stream. And this really starts to bother me. Twitch drops are not a unique or a new concept. They've been around for a while. For the most part, I don't have significant gripes with it, and it's not specifically Valorant or Riot or Tencent that are to blame in this particular instance, because they're just using a publishing tool that's been around for a while that lots of developers and publishers have used, and Twitch enables. If anything, it is Twitch's fault for this. However, Valorant introduced a program in which, in order to get access to the game at this point in time, when everyone is at home, everyone is waiting to play the game, they introduced a program where you have to watch Twitch streams in order to get keys. Now, they did specify that watching more than one Twitch stream doesn't, get you higher chances, but people are still doing that anyway. And so what they have created is essentially people who are acting as view bots, which admittedly I did myself. I left it up when I wasn't paying attention so I could potentially get a key. I don't really care about the game that much. I just wanted to try it a little bit. But they're creating a situation where people are leaving up potentially multiple streams and on multiple devices to get a key, and are just view botting their own game towards success. Now, this doesn't negatively impact individuals or even the streamers directly that much, but what it basically is trying to do is create investor fraud, and that's very common with publishers to flex numbers that are not entirely accurate to what those numbers actually mean, to get higher investments, to increase stocks, to earn more money in some way that are far more important than what the individual creators are doing. And so for every news site to basically, they usually mention that the beta drop thing is going on, but to mention it as some sort of accomplishment to have reached this number of viewers when you are basically turning people into view bots to do this, it's just a little silly IMO. And it kind of exposes a big problem with the Twitch drop system. And you even have situations like Overwatch League being embedded into the Battle.net client, so that every single person who has Battle.net up is adding a view to these streams to inflate numbers. These are incredibly inflated numbers and not representative of anything, but all it does is make Riot and Tencent a lot of freaking money, and theoretically Twitch too. I mentioned that Twitch's numbers were booming as an example, and also people have found in big drop channel streams, there's just 500 plus accounts named Valorant whatever, where people have made bot farms to make a bunch of fake accounts, link them to fake Riot accounts to try to get keys as much as possible. People have been selling them on eBay, things like that. Things that, this is, perhaps more user behavior. The users are to blame more so than Riot or Tencent here. But by using the system and using it as, basically marketing to say, look how much interest is in our game, when people are literally botting it just to be able to play the game because you're releasing it this way, it's all just creating this big thing. It's a problem. And then to compound on top of that, you had streamers like good old fashioned Dr. Disrespect And there were others. He's just the only one who I have confirmed like examples of. Plenty of streamers putting drops here, drops enabled, Valorant key drops in their stream titles, which then boosts viewership even more when they weren't actually giving viewers. And that's scamming your audience. That is scamming your audience who theoretically are only dedicating their time to one stream because they were told that they shouldn't be watching multiple streams. They are dedicating their time to your stream and they're not even going to get a key out of it. So you're literally choosing to viewbot your own stream just to get that extra wave. It's bull. It's garbage. And the fact that there will be zero consequences on basically any channel except maybe a smaller channel that shouldn't have been punished when the bigger channels weren't. There were no consequences applied to these channels. There's no punishment for this. There is nothing to disincentivize this other than them maybe getting a DM at some point being like, yo, you need to change your stream title. That's it. Which means it's just going to keep happening at various points until they address it. And that also highlights a kind of weird problem with Twitch's enforcement of rules, in that how do you punish a streamer without just basically ending their business? Because you can either suspend them or ban them temporarily or permanently. That's a very harsh punishment. There's no really, like on YouTube, there's degrees of punishment. Like certain things can be limited, certain things can be restricted for 6 months, 3 months, whatever. On Twitch, there doesn't seem to be that kind of system, and so there isn't any real way to punish just general bad behavior of streamers other than banning them, which results in a whole heck of a lot of negative PR, which becomes a pretty big problem. And so I think Twitch is in a tough position at this point where they don't really know how to enforce any rules on their biggest streamers, because there's nothing they can do without just kicking them off the platform, which costs Twitch money. There is literally a conflict of interest involved in Twitch enforcing rules when it costs them their own money. Kind of a big deal. Another note I wanted to make was that after Kotaku claimed that the streamers were part of a paid influencer program for the game, which everyone should assume, you should believe, honestly, apparently a Riot source told Kotaku that the company did not actually pay any influencers for coverage. Instead, it opted to invite streamers to an online event and coordinate gameplay and interviews with them based on previously expressed interest in the game. So you're telling me that Tencent, the biggest publisher of games in existence with infinite money, like Disney level money at this point, along with Riot, which is a very big game developer themselves, are releasing what everyone is claiming to be the biggest game launch right now, and they're not paying their influencers, they're sponsoring any money to cover their game for what looked to be 12 hours a day at various points? I was watching Ammunition stream. She had already been streaming for 10 hours when they started running into problems getting the Twitch Rivals tournament going, and they wanted them to just keep stalling for hours and hours after they had already been streaming for 10 hours. And they're not paying them? Those streamers were being scammed. Like, I don't care if you're getting a bunch of extra viewership from it, especially when all of it's viewbotted and when you get a boost in viewership based on a specific game. Most of those do not convert to long-lasting viewers or subscribers. Those are people who will bounce as soon as you leave games, and not the viewers that you want in order to stick around with a healthy stream, because otherwise you're one of those streamers who are like, why can't I play any other game? And losing your mind. They weren't being paid? Are you kidding me? There's so much involved in this that is just so messed up. I don't know. This is just, I don't know. There's a lot wrong with this, and I think it's incredibly facetious and misleading to claim that Valorant had 1.6 million viewers as if that was a real number and not an inflated, made-up number. And the fact that basically streamers get to scam their viewers into sitting in streams and not earning the beta key and not really earning their own viewers, they were earning them based on a false promise, is a pretty big deal. None of this has to say anything about Valorant as a game, the quality of it, whether it's good, anything like that. But this kind of practice is just absurd. And I think if you're going to take yourself seriously as a game news site or streaming news site, and you're going to talk about these stream numbers, you need to be more directly like critical of how those numbers are acquired. Someone's asking what drops means. So Twitch drops is a system where a game publisher can introduce a mechanic onto Twitch, whereas certain streamers, usually sponsored streamers of a game, will get viewers extra items in game. So like during Warframe as an example, during the actual Digital Extremes developer talk that they usually do every other Friday, if you tune in and have your Warframe account linked with your Twitch account and watch that developer stream for X amount of time, then when you log into the game, you get an item. You get an in-game little item that boosts your account and whatever. In this particular instance, it is X number of streamers get drops, wherein if you have your Riot account linked to your Twitch account and you're watching a Valorant stream that has drops enabled, then you will have a random generated chance of unlocking a beta key based on your viewership. That is what the drop system is. And typically, it's not this big of a deal, but when you combine it with everyone being at home, with people literally lying about it, and with a pretty big game launch, and it's literally the only way to access the game, you get a whole lot of weirdness going on. And we even saw people basically making eBay listings to just point people to their Twitch channel, saying they had drops enabled, but they didn't actually have drops enabled and had like 200 subscribers. And the weird thing is, they only chose specific channels to work with in order to enable drops. At which point, it doesn't make sense IMO as a streamer to then stream that game without drops enabled, which is why you saw people like Dr. Disrespect listing that they had drops so that they could compete with the other streamers, even though they didn't have drops, because it's a hard sell to be like, come watch my stream of Valorant, even though you can't get access to the game, instead of people's streams who you can get access to the game. Especially since a lot of those viewers who are swayed by watching specifically for Valorant aren't really there for you, they're for the game, which is an issue with stream viewership in the first place. So those are my thoughts. I just wanted to talk about it because I think sites need to be more serious about how they talk about these things, as it's extremely misleading to just sit here and be like, yeah, it's the most viewed game on Twitch right now, when does that really mean anything? Like, if the US dollar inflates to where it's worth a tenth of where it used to be, and you say you have $10 million, well, okay, you say you have $10,000, you then only have $1,000. Those are very different numbers. That kind of thing. All right, one last topic before we jump to the unboxing break here, just to put things on a little bit more of a positive note. Discord has been putting out a lot of resources to help people and get things set up for people who are working from home, people who are, struggling due to not having a job or whatever. They upped they added Screenshare to Discord Go Live and upped the Discord Go Live viewership up to 50 people, which is insane. And they have also been putting out resources like the server templates, where you can make a server based on a template of another server to get set up very, very quickly. And have started putting out guides like this one on how to set up and utilize Discord for a classroom, because there's a lot of privacy concerns with Zoom. People aren't big fans of Skype. Discord is honestly a very powerful platform to utilize for education and for classrooms. And they have been putting out lots of resources like this to help people get set up. And I am a huge fan of that. So huge kudos to them. Mods are posting that link in the chat if you want to check it out for yourself. If you are a teacher or educator or just want to set up a classroom-like environment, it is pretty freaking cool. I definitely recommend you check it out. We're going to run an ad super quick, and then I have something a little cool to show you. But first, let's talk about this.
On a Stream Deck and think, man, I wish I could have all of that power in the palm of my hands. Well, now you can. Install the app on iOS or Android, connect your Stream Deck software on PC, and start setting up your program launchers, CPU monitors, button to control your key lights, and stream scene switching, all within minutes. It doesn't get much easier than this. Try it free with the link in the video description.
This stream is also brought to you by a new sponsor for streamer news, Nerd or Die. Can I flip on over here? Topic screen. There we go. Nerd or Die is a wonderful place to get overlays, even free overlays, free alerts, free tools for your stream setup. They have them supercharged with one-click setup options for Streamlabs OBS, for Streamlabs for the alert system, and they even have a new tool, which I'll be covering soon, which will allow you to do one-click setup inside normal OBS. So if you've been a fan of Streamlabs' super easy, layout setup where it can just quickly throw it all up on screen and you don't have to do any of the work for it, Nerd or Die has actually made that tool and made it available for vanilla OBS Studio, which is pretty bonkers. They have some cool layouts. like synthwave here, which was the chat layout that I was using in the just chatting scene, as you guys saw. A layout after my own heart. Pretty freaking phenomenal. They have a lot of really cool layouts. They are super affordable, and we will have some cool videos from them coming soon. They even have a free Twitch panel maker. They have some really cool Stream Deck icons. They have a lot. Go check it out at eposvox.gg/nerdordie. Link is in the chat. And yeah, pretty stoked to be working with them moving forward. All right, I need a drink really quick. All right, so since I have been quarantining and, sanitizing all of the packages that come in and out of my home due to the obvious reasons, I don't really have a proper unboxing segment today because, I'm not actually unboxing it on camera. But I did want to call out a couple cool things you guys might want to see. This right here, this has already been shown publicly, so I can talk about it. This is the AverMedia Live Gamer Bolt. It is their Thunderbolt 3 4K 60 capture card. I can't say much more about my thoughts or reviews on it until the embargo is up and my review has been published. However, I have it here. Review is coming soon. Get prepared. A lot of people have been asking about it. Yes, review is happening. I don't have anything more I can share about it, but it's right here. Hello, focus. There we go. All right, secondly, after posting my Sony cameras video, I had a lot of people commenting being like, you need to check out Fuji cameras. Fuji has been making some really good cameras in the APS-C space, and you're really missing out by using them. And honestly, I have never used a Fuji camera before. So I picked up a used Fuji X-T10 on KEH. It was like $225-ish. It was super cheap for what it is. The photos I've seen out of it have been phenomenal. This is my first Fuji camera ever. I am in love with the body design because it is very similar with all of the manual controls to my favorite film camera that I use, which is my Minolta here. Very similar design, which is just kind of cool. And I like having the controls on hand for a little bit. Seems like it's super easy to use, and it does have HDMI output. I haven't tested this one in particular for live, clean HDMI feed, so I'm not stating one way or the other whether you should buy this for a webcam yet, but I'm mainly interested in it for photography's sake. And at some point, I'd love to try an XT4, but I don't know that will ever happen anytime soon. But I've heard amazing things. Fuji Color is amazing, and the photos I've seen out of them is amazing. Unfortunately, B&H is shipping super slow, so all my lens adapters I ordered from them are going to take a couple weeks probably, and I don't have any native Fuji lenses, but I'm super stoked that I'll be able to talk about this before too long. Also, I'm moving back to a dual PC setup for game streaming, so we'll have some content coming on that as well. Go ahead and respond to a couple chat messages here. Why show it if you can't talk about it? Literally to call out that the review is coming soon so that you can, stay tuned for it and know that it's coming and know to look for it. And this is the unboxing segment. That's the whole point of it. Sanitizing methods. Basically, I just leave a box alone, away from anything that it could contaminate for about 24 hours. And then I will either wipe down the whole box if I'm putting it somewhere with, Lysol wipes, or either I'll unbox it, wipe down the product, keep it somewhere safe, and then throw away the box and scrub my hands. You don't got to be too serious with it, but just to be safe, that's a pretty good way to go. You could leave it out in a sunroom or something where it has sunlight and isn't contaminating anything for about 24 hours. Just make sure you're washing your hands and getting rid of as much external packaging that you don't need to keep as much as possible. Do you have a dual PC setup guide on your channel? That's why I mentioned it. Coming soon. BlackMagic Intensity 4K, not a capture card I'd recommend for very many purposes at all. All right, speaking of BlackMagic, that's a good segue into our next topic. I wonder if that was on purpose. So, BlackMagic just recently had a big 1-hour stream announcing all of their recent updates to their product lineup. They do these every so often. This one focused very much on live streaming. So first and foremost, they basically added updates to their BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K and 6K models to turn them into streaming cameras. And so Basically, this allows them to have a tally light using the front little light indicator controlled by the ATEM Mini so that your talent or whoever knows which camera is currently active. That is really handy, and it was kind of silly that it wasn't implemented in the first place. And it allows you to change the camera settings from the ATEM Mini software, such as focus, or actually not focus, yeah, such as focus, gain, shutter speed, as well as controlling the internal recording within the camera, all via HDMI. It is controlling all of this just through the HDMI connection to the ATEM Mini. You will have to update your cameras with the latest BlackMagic camera update and update the ATEM software, but that is pretty insane that you can just control them all via the HDMI. I know HDMI control has been a thing, but so little use it that I'm always just blown away when I do see, implementations of it that kind of make sense. Also with that, they announced the ATEM Mini Pro. So a while back, I reviewed the BlackMagic ATEM Mini, which is it's basically a 4-in-1 capture card that also acts as a video switcher and a couple other things. I had some issues with it, but overall it was fine, and people just wanted a couple updates to it, like multi-view and things like that. Well, they introduced the ATEM Mini Pro, which basically adds all those features. It now has multi-view. You can now broadcast from within the box itself over Ethernet, although it has obviously a hardware encoder. The quality is probably equivalent to X264 very fast. It's probably not amazing for low bitrate streams if you're doing anything action-based, but I don't have it. I haven't tested it. We can find out later if I get my hands on it. It can also record to a USB drive directly from the broadcast stream setup. However, it is double the price at $600 versus $300 for the original ATEM Mini, by just adding in some features that some people wanted originally. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but the live broadcast within it certainly makes it a lot easier for people. But I feel like for $600, you could probably find a used like big boy ATEM and get a little bit more functionality out of it. Maybe not. I haven't looked super closely at it, but I do feel like it's a little bit of a weird choice. They have also updated their DeckLink 8K Pro capture card. This was originally an 8K 60 FPS capture card. They use 12G SDI, and they have given a free update to it that allows you to use 4 12G SDI inputs for 4 separate 4K streams at the same time. So now it's an 8K 60 FPS capture card or 4 4K 60 FPS capture cards in one. It also got HDR and HLG support. It only uses a PCIe 8X bandwidth connection, and it's only $645, which a lot of you on the budget streaming side may think that's just bonkers, but something like the Live Gamer 4K and the Elgato 4K 60 Pro launched at $400, and my BlackMagic DeckLink Quad HDMI, which is for 4K 60 inputs via HDMI, was $500. So only $145 more to get 8K 60 FPS or that option. Plus, this DeckLink capture card is actually capable of both input and output. So you could have 2 4K input streams, 2 4K output streams, things like that. It's bidirectional. That value is insane. And the fact that this was a free update basically turned it into a completely different capture card. But BlackMagic didn't stop there. I don't really have a dedicated article for this one. They also updated their HyperDeck Studio Mini, which is basically a built-in little encoder and recorder box. They have a few different HyperDeck boxes. They added an H.264 encoder to it. So traditionally, these HyperDeck boxes recorded to ProRes or DNxHR, mostly lossless codecs, for just like a lossless quality copy of a broadcast that you're putting this in between. Kind of like the Elgato 4K 60S Plus. It kind of just goes between your signal and captures it to disk. Well, this lets you get up to 3 hours of runtime out of it by using H.264. It also uses AAC audio and supports interlaced formats, which is great for all the people doing local sports broadcasts and stuff using 1080i cameras, which are very common. It also makes direct upload to YouTube a lot easier, and they have upped the Ethernet transfer speeds to the full gigabit cap of 110 megabits per second. So huge updates across much of their product line that adds a lot of functionality here. Honestly, my own disappointment is just that my Ursa Mini Pro is not getting a whole lot of updates these days. It seems like they're pouring most of their software development into their pocket cameras, and maybe that makes sense because that's more of the consumer camera and where a lot of their market share is versus the more expensive cinema cameras. But I feel like I keep getting cheated out of features after having bought my Ursa that they put in the G2, which they released 6 months after I got my G1, and then in the pocket cameras as well. You get what you get, I guess. Next up, NewTek has announced the world's first, oh, that's the wrong link, the world's first NDI HX PTZ camera that supports UHD. Now that's a lot of letters, so let's break this down. This is a pan tilt zoom camera, which are used for conferences, for classrooms, or for certain live streams because of its flexibility, because you can remote control it to spin all the way around, to zoom in really far, and to tilt up and down. These are used for a lot of these kinds of enterprise or broadcast scenarios. This is the first one that supports NDI built in. If you don't know what NDI is, I have a whole video essay dedicated to NDI. Linked, it was just posted a couple weeks ago. You can find it directly on the channel page. It is a new technology that basically virtualizes a capture card. So instead of needing a capture card from an HDMI source or an SDI source or something like that, it captures it over the network. And so it just streams the data over the network as a capture card, more or less losslessly, to OBS or whatever broadcast platform you want. Apparently it integrates directly with Zoom too. So that's pretty cool. And so this is the first PTZ camera that supports NDI HX, which is their more compressed codec, that supports 4K video. Now, 4K 60 video, by the way. It has 30 times optical zoom, pan tilt zoom control, of course. Video, audio, control, tally, power are all controlled over the Ethernet connection. So all you gotta do is hook up that one Ethernet connection and it's powered. You get full control and the data transfer, but it also has HDMI 2.0 out in case you want to run it to something else. It has multi-out, so you can send it to different sources at once, and it can be used as a webcam source for various streaming services or video chats or whatever, if you're, you know, phoning into a news station or something like that. Now it is $5,000, but for the pricing and where it lives on the market, that's actually not all that expensive for what you're getting. So I hope one day I can try this out for myself. Would be pretty cool, but it is certainly pretty bonkers, and I'm stoked for it regardless. What about delay? NDI itself is fairly low latency, so it wouldn't be a huge deal. You would just need to sync it up with your audio a little bit, but not a huge deal. My next topic here is just a quick mention of all the freebies and discounts you can get due to the current human malware situation. Plenty of companies for production and working from home situations are offering either freebies or discounts on their products. So for example, Nikon has an entire camera school service that they're making available for free for the time being during the entire month of April. So you've got 20 days left. Then Pluralsight is also making everything free for the month of April. It's a great education platform, mostly focused on programming, but they also have topics covering creative subjects and things like that. Then you have Stadia. If you want to try Stadia for free, you get, I believe, 2 months of it for free starting right now. Obviously, there's a lot of memes about Stadia's performance and quality and what have you, but if you don't have a game console and can't afford it right now, this is a way you can play some games. So there you go. Red Hat is offering multiple online courses for enterprise Linux and technical setup if you're interested in learning some nerdy Linux stuff. Then you have the Epic Game Store, has some free games that they've been rotating as well, but not just Epic. If you don't want to use the Epic launcher, that's fine. Sonic Lukids just said that Harvard's computer science online course is free. That's amazing. GOG has 27 games or something as part of their stay at home and play some game collections. So lots of old and new games you can check out from GOG. GOG is a freaking great site. Go for it. Affinity is giving everybody a 90-day free trial on their wonderful Adobe alternative software. I have picked up all of it. I even have the workbook on learning Affinity Photo here, as I'm going to be working through it, and I'm going to have some videos on all of these apps because they're much more suited to building basically social graphics or photo work or video work or what have you, and they're freaking phenomenal. So you get a 90-day free trial through them, and everything's half off at the moment. So it was I spent $100 total bucks for all of the software and the iPad apps, and you keep them for life instead of per month like with Adobe. Hard to argue with all of this free stuff going on and all of the good deals going on if you are interested in starting up a an online creative based business, or even just learning things online. You have the options available to you. I don't want to contribute too heavily towards the messaging that this is the time you need to make your career, because we're all dealing with so much stress and anxiety and everything else that it is hard for a lot of people to really get a whole lot of momentum going with it, myself included. Sometimes it's just hard to get anything done with all this going on, especially for people who have their entire family home and are maybe not in a situation suited towards doing a whole lot of work right now. But if you are in a position and really want to act on it, this is, this is the time for that. Someone mentioned that the Nikon link isn't working. I just clicked it again. It is still working. It is a /US/whatever link. So if you're not in the US, it might like error out for you or something when it tries to adjust for your region. So I guess keep that in mind. They do have a Nikon global link. You might be able to access it in other regions, but that might be why the link isn't working for you. So there's a lot going on with that. Affinity is certainly great if you're doing social stuff. Like I said, it is something to pick up. You may not have heard of it yet. It is fairly new, but you are going to hear about it soon. I will say that. It is gaining quite a bit of momentum. It doesn't replace like Photoshop or... I bought all three. So I have Publisher, I have Designer, and I have Photo. And so one's meant to replace InDesign, which I was actually about to start working on some ebook stuff in InDesign. So I'm interested to try out this instead. Designer's more made for making like quick graphics and things like that, but they have so much basic things for making things like... This is not a sponsored spot, by the way. I just realized that it sounds like it. I've barely even touched it myself yet, but I've been watching some streams of people using it. They just have really cool tools. So just like, if you want to make an arrow on your thumbnail, that's pretty difficult in Photoshop, honestly. It's super easy in Affinity. Little things like that where maybe not the highest end of professional work or like hardcore work would use, but if you're making stuff for Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, things like that, it is a lot more user-friendly and handy for that. I'm gonna stop talking out. I'm not getting paid for this, and I should be. I'm giving them free stuff when I shouldn't be. What's up, Front Seat Racing? Oh, I clicked the link in chat. Didn't work, but I copied the link and posted in the URL bar, and it worked, so that is strange. All right. Moving on to the next topic. As I covered last week, or last streamer news, rather, pretty much all sports have gone off the air because no one can play them at the moment because, the obvious, we can't group up and things like that. Wrestling is basically just having audience-less things, and even talk show hosts have been moving to their bedrooms and producing webcam quality videos and stuff. It's all been really fascinating. I remember Sarah DC tweeted out saying, hopefully we get laptops with beefy 1080p webcams moving forward because of this. I would hope we would get beefy desktop 1080p webcams because of this first, because we haven't even gotten that. Anyway, with sports going off the air, channels dedicated to sports are needing to fill that air. And so League of Legends Championship Series, the LCS, is returning to ESPN with playoff actions streaming on ESPN2 and the ESPN app. This is really fascinating, really cool to see a lot of that going on, and it's pretty cool. I remember it was the coolest thing in the world growing up, seeing Halo 2 played on ESPN. Now, obviously, G4 had Arena, which had like CS 1.6 and a couple like Quake, I believe, streaming on there. But for ESPN, all I really saw on there was Halo 2, which was just the coolest thing in the world before it all moved to MLG and got taken off ESPN. So to see video games returning, I would make a wager that this isn't a temporary thing, that we will start to see, even if it's a dedicated ESPN gaming channel or something, since ESPN already has 50 channels. Like, they're not afraid of making new channels. I don't think we're going to see this go away once normal sports have returned. So it will be very fascinating to see how the sports broadcast industry alters after they invest so heavily in integrating esports. That's just my take from it, but So next one is just a quick mention I wanted to talk about here. This series isn't entirely new, but this is a new write-up about it. The Dark Crystal on Netflix. This is a write-up about how they modified one of the Red cameras to support 1:1 aspect ratio stretching for anamorphic, because the entire show was shot on these anamorphic Cook lenses, which are super expensive and fancy, but they require a specific way for the sensor to operate in order to stretch it out and get the right aspect ratios and all of that. And so this explains how the show was made and how they actually modified the Red Dragon to support this format at 4320 by 4320 aspect ratio to then de-squeeze it for the anamorphic look. I just love seeing more behind the scenes write-ups of how production is handled for movies and TV shows and things like that, and talking about it. And so I just wanted to share it with you in case you're interested in diving into more of the industry level of production and things like that. I just think it's pretty cool. I would love to try out a red camera one day. I know I've talked about, I've made videos about how you don't need a red camera for YouTube, and I have my own cinema camera, but it's not anywhere near as expensive as a red camera. I don't think it would make sense for me to buy one directly anytime soon, of course. But having used actual cinema cameras now and not having experienced what a red one is like, I would love to use a modern, especially the full frame, large format style red cameras at some point. I think it would just be a blast just to experience it, to push it to its limits in terms of slow-mo and resolution and things like that, and see if my absurd Threadripper Titan RTX rig can actually handle it, because I don't know if it can, and that would be pretty cool to test out. So just thought I would bring that up to you. Pretty cool stuff. If you're interested in checking it out, of course. There are a couple updates that I'm also going to be kind of shoving in here that didn't necessarily have article listings after this one. Microsoft is updating their Windows game bar, which previously wasn't super functional, especially after they removed the... Oh, I would love to try an RE camera as well as Stux. Stu? I don't know how that name's said. I'm sorry. Typically, once they removed the mixer support, the Microsoft game bar wasn't super useful, and so they've been developing an SDK that integrates other streaming services. So they're launching with XSplit support. I'm kind of disappointed they're not launching with OBS support. That's weird and not cool, but they are launching with that, as well as Razer's Cortex system booster. So if you want to negligibly improve your performance with that software, it's an option available to you. But it will add widgets into the game bar so you can see your chat, so you can control your stream, everything like that, into the game bar natively, which will allow it to be a lot more fluid to control and things like that. So it's pretty cool that update is coming. The SDK will be made available so that other services can control it. I just wanted to share that as well. Switching on over, we have... I feel like I had a question I needed to answer. Yeah, we already talked about the whole Viewbotting thing, by the way. So, switching on over to the next topic. I just wanted to run through this. This isn't... I'm not going to go... I could spend an entire video talking about this, but I don't think it's necessarily worth it right now. This is from flatpanelshd.com, which is just kind of like one of the original review sites of HD TVs, talking about why it's unlikely that we might get an optical disc format for 8K movies or TV shows. And most of it feels a little confused. It's like pulling at both sides of the, well, we don't have 8K media yet, so we can't have 8K discs, and we have 8K TVs, so we need 8K discs, and kind of going back and forth. I don't know that it was fully fleshed out as best as it could, but the idea that we would have 8K TVs, which are already coming out and becoming cheaper and more affordable, and we're going to have 8K streaming from Netflix, but we're not going to have 8K Blu-rays, is pretty terrifying. Wow, I just blew right into the microphone. I'm sorry. Pretty terrifying. Pretty terrifying for the future IMO, because if you've ever watched, like, there are plenty of people out there who have only streamed movies pretty much, at least since DVDs, and haven't seen an actual Blu-ray. If you watch an actual Blu-ray, it pretty much beats anything that even 4K streaming does from Netflix and YouTube and things like that. A 4K Blu-ray 100% beats it. Even if the movie isn't mastered in native 4K and blah, 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 all that nonsense, the bit rates and the quality of the format that you get on a Blu-ray disc compared to the streaming media is so significantly different. IMO, like I've been the one who said, no, 8K isn't pointless. 8K TVs aren't pointless, whatever. If we're not going to get a more basically lossless or, higher quality format to watch 8K media in, then yes, 8K TVs are pointless. If the only option for me to watch 8K media is from streaming services, the TV is pointless because that quality is not there, and we don't have the infrastructure to increase that quality for streaming from, services like Netflix and things like that. So I don't think that makes any sense whatsoever. And so that really terrifies me if so. I realize that for a lot of people, optical media is dead, but there is something to be said for the quality difference and for actually seeing a movie without blocking and stuff that the physical media guy in me just can't let go, because I really don't like how anything from streaming services looks most of the time. Not to be said, it's not fine for most people, and given that most people watch it on their phones, whatever, I don't know. It really bothers me to think about. And I think 8K Blu-rays are totally possible. They can increase the size a little bit, or they can just include less extras or something, but it's 100% possible to fit it on existing like dual layer or quad layer or whatever they have now Blu-ray discs, because they go up to like 100 gigs. I don't know. It just doesn't set well with me. So cool finds is the section where I just have a couple extra things I forgot to miss, and included in that are a couple things that I haven't actually even added to my show doc yet. First and foremost, there is a video game and entertainment news network that wants to recreate the magic of G4 TV. If you followed me for any length of time on Twitter or anything like that, you would know that I have been a huge fan of G4 TV. I watched it all the time when it was up. Attack of the Show, X-Play, as I mentioned, Arena. It was the only thing I watched on TV for a very long time. It was so good to me and so ahead of its time. And I've been really disappointed that it went under, that Attack of the Show and X-Play and things like that don't exist anymore, and that nothing's really recreated that magic. For a little bit, Machinima and their Machinima Respawn and all of their little personality shows and hub shows did recreate that 100% to a degree, and it was great. But then they also went under, and pretty much anyone who tries to recreate this goes under. So I don't have, high expectations for VENN or VENN, but the idea that they're still chasing it and want to make a TV show that doesn't compete with existing YouTube and Twitch content, but basically re-emulates that kind of style. I've been pushing it for a long time. I've actually sent countless emails to Comcast, which owns the rights to G4's shows, asking to put it online or to let me digitize the tapes of it to put it online. And they still haven't. I'm very disappointed that that backlog of content is not available. But the idea that someone else is, chasing that idea is exciting to me, even if I don't know how well it will do. Also in that, there is an Indiegogo that still has a couple days, it looks like 28 days left for what they're calling the Astro Slide 5G Transformer. I feel like that's just an embarrassing name. It's a terrible name, a horrible name, but the concept is really cool. I was always a huge fan. I had multiple of those slide texting phones, and I miss physical keyboards on phones. And so that is a phone I could see myself using. And there's a couple like it. I think Wendell just reviewed one as well. That's from a completely different company. The only problem with these is that the specs inside are either fairly outdated compared to the price, compared to other phones you could get for the same price. You could get a much better phone, or there's significant drawbacks in terms of the camera and things like that, and that's unfortunate. But I still want one so bad. I want a keyboard phone so bad. So I'm interested to see how this one does, and to see if this trend of these kinds of phones coming back makes any headway, if you know what I'm saying. Also, I just wanted to highlight, I get memed on sometimes for using my Ursa as a webcam and things like that. Gavin from Slow-Mo Guys has me completely beat because he was using his $150,000 slow-mo camera as a webcam. So just a setup of the crazy things people are doing as they're working from home. Also, a new noise suppression beta feature got added to Discord, which basically uses more like artificial intelligence noise suppression to help remove background noise from your microphone. This was just added to Discord. You can set it up. Pretty neat. There's some cool technology under this and under similar things that you'll start hearing about soon that I can't talk about yet, but I'm very, very excited to talk about moving forward. So just wanted to plant that little seed for now, if you know what I mean. But yeah, that's this week in streamer news. I'm going to start spending a little bit more time than I usually do at the end here for a Q&A section. So this is your time. If you want questions, you want them answered, we've got 5-6 minutes maybe dedicated to this, and then we'll wrap up today's stream. I do appreciate everybody hanging out in the stream, chatting about today's topics. We had a lot to talk about this week. This was a little bit more than usual. And for those of you who keep jumping in late asking when we talked about the Valorant stuff, watch the VOD. That's what it's there for. Hopefully someone will have time codes in the comments before too terribly long. Don't know what it is, but landscape on smartphones feels awkward. Yes, it does, at least with the on-screen keyboard, because it takes up so much more proportionally. It takes up like half of the screen versus just like a third of the screen. Landscape on smartphones, if you have the on-screen keyboard, is terrible. Any news on the Windows issue affecting systems with 2 or more monitors using different refresh rates? That is coming in an upcoming update, but has not rolled out publicly yet. They've basically already got it fixed. So there you go. It's just waiting to roll out. You can join the Insider program, which is totally free. You just check a box and you can go ahead and get it now. SM7BY, I explained this at the start of the stream. My Electro Voice mic I was using before started picking up some EMI, electromagnetic interference, I believe, from my computer whenever I was game streaming. When I move it closer to my computer, I could literally just move it further and closer to the computer and watch it pick up, and it was producing some nasty sound in my microphone. This microphone is apparently more shielded and does not have that issue, and I just wanted to test it out some more. I reviewed it back in like 2017, but haven't messed with it since I didn't own one, so now I own one. It is pretty freaking awesome. I love it. XY asks, how does your mic level sound so constant even when you turn your head away from the microphone? For the most part, I am staying within the cone of pickup from the microphone. That is very important, because if I come over here, it's probably not picking it up at all. Same thing if I come over here, but if you stay in the cone of pickup, that's important to it. And then that's what a compressor does. It normalizes your audio basically. And so also I just get louder the further away I get from the microphone, but a compressor, which is running through my Go XLR, handles all of that. Have you been eating well? Yeah, it's not been too bad. We theoretically might be eating better than we used to because we haven't had any fast food. It took about 3 or 4 weeks of quarantining before I started really missing fast food and finally broke down. And we ordered pizza at one point. We did the door drop off social distancing thing, and then we immediately transferred it to a fresh container, wiped everything down, threw away the boxes, scrubbed our hands, and then ate. Pizza was really freaking good, but we're doing pretty well. Spending way too much money at the grocery store to stock up on things. That's been frustrating, but it's been fine. DMEZZ, can I ask a question? I have a high refresh rate gaming rig and a stream rig with the HD60 Pro. Should I upgrade to the 4K 60 Pro Mark II or use NDI? Try NDI. If it seems to be working for you, go for it. You're good to go. If not, upgrade capture cards. Pretty straightforward thought process there. Kieran's been making rough time codes incredibly appreciated. Yeah, the thing with NDI is there might be soon, but there's currently no way to stream it without having a program that still has GPU resource usage going on. So you have to have OBS open, sending the preview, or NDI scan converter, which still uses GPU compositing. So it's still competing with your game for resources. So it's still not as lightweight as a capture card because you're still GPU compositing. So for now, you know, that still doesn't necessarily solve all the performance problems for people compared to a capture card, which has literally zero performance impact on the computer it's coming from. Will you try Fuji cameras for streaming? Yep, that's what the unboxing segment was about. I'll try it once I can actually get lenses in the house. I have no lenses I can attach to this thing at the moment. SM7B cage behind the pop filter is famously protective against EMI. That is good to know. I honestly didn't know that. Stream platform for the duffer? I don't know what that means. Who wants to shoot in 24p and 30p and bring in 1 or 2 guests? I don't know what you're asking, Rob. I'm just going to say Rob. Restream platform question. Like, what platform should you be on? Any platform, honestly. Twitch is now much more open to non-gaming streams. But obviously Facebook reaches a different audience. I wouldn't do Mixer. Mixer's still really... I mean, Mixer has the education focus now, but whatever. Oh, you actually heard me at normal volume whenever I went around the microphone? That's hilarious. That's funny. Going through... I had the chat scrolled here. For animation and content creation, no gaming. Do I choose Radeon 7? Yeah, I cannot recommend a AMD card. As I stated in the encoder quality analysis video, I cannot recommend an AMD card for content creation. Not for video encoding part of content creation. If you're just video editing, the Radeon 7's freaking phenomenal. But for video encoding, not so much. Is the Live Gamer HD2 enough for streaming and recording for a few years from now? If you don't plan on going past 1080p, yeah. If you plan on going past 1080p or 60 hertz, it doesn't do either of those. So, what are your needs a few years from now? I don't know. So many questions. Opinion on RE Mini Pro. R Mini Pro? I don't know what that is. Mini Pro. Talking about the ATEM Mini Pro, go back in the VOD. I already talked about that. What's the pink thing going down your microphone? That is a custom XLR cable from Pro Audio Cables, I think it's called. Super expensive, but worth it. Although I had them built backwards, so that's unfortunate, but that was my fault. Did you notice Epifan's Webcaster X2 was discontinued? I did not. How much gain do you have for the SM7B? 50 decibels. Opinion on ATEM Mini Pro, again, covered earlier in the BlackMagic section of the video. Bird Dog P400 also has 4K PTZ. That's interesting. But it doesn't support NDI HX. I think that's the little asterisk NDI is getting away with. Is Bird Dog usually doesn't support NDI HX. Wait, what's 1080p? Netflix 1080p 60 FPS in the future or higher bitrate hope. What? Movies are not going to be 60 FPS. Streaming software. Start with OBS if you can learn it. Otherwise, if you're on Mac, there's a software called Ecamm Live, which makes it super easy to feature tweets and responses to streams and things like that. Pretty cool. And then if you're wanting to spend some money and really learn, vMix is really powerful for IRL streams. There's an option called NDI Scan Converter. NDI Scan Converter still uses GPU compositing. There's an option for it called Monitor Frame Rate. That's for the NDI monitor stream. I think that's for the lower quality stream. I don't know, to be honest. I'll have to dig into it more. How do you build an XLR cable backwards? I wish I had one to show you. So you see here how this end is vertical? I had one that was built, I had them all built with right angle connections to plug into my shotgun microphone. So it'd be a right angle coming down because that was more ergonomic for how I had them built. And I put the right angle on the wrong end. So now whenever it's plugged into my audio recorder or my Go XLR, it's sticking down out of it. So I have to hit until the stand ships. The Go XLR stand has not shipped, and that's really frustrating. But until the Go XLR stand ships, I have to have my Go XLR in a box because the XLR cable sticks down below the Go XLR due to that right angle, because I had them put on backwards. You have anything planned for SRT video? Unfortunately, not really. Haven't gotten there yet. I noticed you, LG Clan. What do you think the best application for bringing in remote callers cleanly into a stream? Skype for content creators, because it has NDI output. I was wondering, would the 4K 60 Mark II eliminate it altogether? Eliminate what? Performance impact? Yes. If you have a second streaming PC, absolutely. What do you think will be the next big streaming product from Elgato? Project Wave. That's all I can say. Is there any difference between re-encoding and streaming? Nope. Video encoding is video encoding no matter the purpose. There was a Thor Ragnarok 60 FPS video. Yeah, that was just interpolated. I hate it. What nail polish color are you trying for your next video? Some sort of light blue. Yes, I would love a new XLR cable that is like 6 feet long for this setup. I'll have to measure it exactly, but I would love one specifically for this setup, because I also have a big, I don't know if I can even show this I can't show it on camera. I have a big clump of cables because this one's like 15 feet long that keeps falling on top of my power supply and picking up new interference. All right, guys, I gotta wrap up this stream. Thank you so much for hanging out for this episode of Streamer News. One last question. Two last questions. Is this streamed through the Camlink 4K? No, this is streamed through the BlackMagic Quad Decklink Quad HDMI, which has 4 4K inputs. I use it for all of my cameras at my desk setup here. And then one last question. What headphones do you use now? What DAC amp do you use? These are the HD6XXs from Sennheiser and Massdrop, run through a Behringer headphone amp that just splits it out for 4 different headphone outputs from my Go XLR. I have the new shit stack, the Magni and Fuma, I think it is. The Fuma and Hell. They just Shit Audio just sent me new audio hardware, and I'm gonna be trying that out. But haven't gotten my review done of that yet. Thanks so much for hanging out in this episode of Streamer News. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day. As always, I'm EposVox, your stream professor. And go join our Discord at eposvox.gg/discord, and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/eposvox. I'll probably be streaming this weekend. See ya! Thank you for the $5 super chat, Michael Vaughn.